All right, thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the October 22nd Oregon City Planning Commission meeting. We thank those who are watching on television and those who are in the audience. Thank you for coming out this evening. And my one little editorial comment for today is, I hope everybody's had a good day. And number two, I hope that everybody exercises their right to vote. I heard an interesting story on NPR about how many people were not voting, and it freaks me out because it's so easy. So we have on our agenda tonight, we have two items. One's going to be short and sweet.
Thanks. You're welcome. You're my guy. You're my
Are we on?
special guy.
So let's take the very short one and, yes, well, hang on. We'll take the very short one third. So next on our agenda is public comments. I like to pause in between when I'm talking, so don't think that I'm not getting there. Let's learn that in Toastmasters. So tonight on our agenda, we have item number 2. Is there anybody in the audience that has an item that is not on the Planning Commission agenda that would like to address the Planning Commission and talk with us tonight? I don't have any slips, but that doesn't mean anything. No slips?
Not for 3A. but-
2A.
Sorry,
Two.
these are for, yes, no. we
No,
don't.
nothing for 2?
Nothing for 2.
Okay, so we have nobody here for public comments, all right. So we'll move to item number 3. And item 3A, we have a request for continuance. I don't know where you come up with these new initials, but anyway, we have an annexation, zone change, and a minor partition. That's a request for continuance. So would you give the staff report, please? Very brief one, I guess.
Yes, so this is an annexation, rezoning, and minor partition application for property at 14530 South Maple Lane Road, Clackamas County, APN 32E04DB00500.
Do we have a
Staff's,
slide on that
no, we
in
don't.
case the,
Staff
Audience.
requests a continuance of the matter until November 26, 2018. The applicant has granted an extension of the 120-day deadline to December 28, 2018. The public is invited to submit written comments or speak on any item,
well,
on this
that
item until the record is closed.
Guy, got a question, just out of curiosity. This thing have any trees on it?
A few, not many.
Big ones,
Like
small ones?
3 moderately sized trees.
Okay.
Just be
Putting
ready.
in some roses there, Tom.
It's not Park Place.
Maybe, actually, I think.
That was a
3 or
forest.
6, yeah.
Why is there a 180-day calendar when it's an annexation?
Because it includes zone changes and applications which are subject to 120-day clock.
But they're not subject to it if we don't approve the annexation. So why is there a clock if the very first thing we're going to decide is whether or not there's a clock?
Because they're concurrent reviews, and because one is subject to it, we run them all subject to it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a discussion about the fact that there are at least 2 or 3 planning commissioners that do not care for the concurrent applications.
That's fine.
But yes, that's why, because there's land use app. Otherwise, if we were just doing the annexation, it would not be subject to that clock.
Right. Okay. Move that we continue PC 18139 till November 26th.
6th, I'll second.
I assume there's nobody who wants to.
Okay.
Nope, we don't have any slips for that.
Commissioner,
I've got a point of order.
Please,
Just out
go
of
right ahead.
curiosity. Does the chair get the second? Mm-hmm. Do they?
Yeah, they can second, they can't initiate.
Okay,
I have initiated.
okay. I stand.
Commissioner Guile,
Aye.
Commissioner Maybe,
Aye.
Commissioner Henkin,
Aye.
Commissioner Espy's not here. Commissioner Mahoney,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Chairman Griff.
Aye.
Continues to November 26.
I don't believe in the rule that the chair can't make a motion. I did all the time at the neighborhood meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we have any slips for the next item?
Yes.
Is there somewhere?
There it is.
Thank you so much. We only have one. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4 people in the audience. Okay.
They're ready to rock.
Huh?
They're ready to rock if we say something.
Oh, okay. Hold on. All right, so next on our agenda, we have item 3B. It's a legislative amendment 18-00001, Development Code amendments that include equitable housing. And this is a public hearing again, and we will be considering testimony. Did we have anything that came in writing?
No, we did not.
I am shocked that we didn't get something at the last minute. But it's just a standing thing with us. Sometimes we get stuff, people bring us lots of stuff to read. We get here and we have to read it and we have to listen, and it's hard to listen and read at the same time. So we have a hearing procedure on the wall to my right. And although this is not quasi-judicial, we'd still like to follow the hearing procedures. So we would mostly appreciate it if you would come forward and say your name and what city you live in. That's fine. And give us what you'd like us to hear, and we will be happy to consider it. We may have some questions for you. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Since we don't have a plethora of people here testifying, we're not gonna limit the testimony, but obviously half an hour would be way too long, but we're not gonna say you have 3 minutes and that's it. So we'll have a staff report this evening, and then the planning commission will hear testimony, we'll have discussion, and we have a couple of things to talk about. Number one, the proposed amendments. We also have our draft letter that we wanted to talk to the city commission about. And I guess when we get to that, I'll ask you when we're proposing to have that happen so we can get it on our calendar. So Pete,
Sure.
It is your show tonight.
Okay, thank
It's the
you.
Pete Walter Show.
All right, so this is legislative file 18-00001.
No slides tonight?
No slides tonight.
Okay.
We have held several meetings and work sessions up to this point, which are detailed in the staff report. This is hearing number 6, I believe, or 7.
Well, not real hearings.
And
Sort of alleged hearings.
so at the September 24th meeting, we had a tentative decision to recommend approval, but we've been working through a few items. Those amendments that incorporate the direction of the Planning Commission are based on the October 2018 code version, which is in your packet. And in addition, we put together a draft letter providing policy advisement to the City Commission based on your direction at the October 8th hearing. So we wanted to discuss that. And then in addition, I believe that Commissioner Mabey has some issues that we wanted to talk through that you've already discussed some of this evening. I'll be happy to respond to those when Commissioner Mabey brings those up. And I appreciate him coming in and talking to me about those beforehand. Our staff recommendation is to approve these development code amendments. As a whole, they result in greater opportunities for housing, reduce many regulations, streamline our development review processes, and provide a lot more clarity around existing standards. This does not include any changes to the zoning map or approve any city-initiated construction or development. So with that, I will recommend approval, and I know at the work session, we're going to be talking through the policy advisement letter as well. So welcome any questions or comments that you have based on the process that we've been following.
I think our usual procedure has been, we'd go ahead and hear the public testimony, and then we'll chat with you about whatever we'd like to chat. Is that still okay, everybody? Make sure the public is heard first before we get into discussions. Are you okay with that, Vern and Tom? Just want to make sure everybody heard that. Okay, Dan, it's your turn. Welcome back.
So I got it, number 6 on it as a list. Dan Berg, 20122 Highway 213 in Oregon City. I'm here to discuss item that's being lined out, 17.18.035, pre-existing industrial use of tax lot 11200.
So let's hang on so we can all get to the same page.
What's 17 dot?
17.18.035.
Okay, got
You
it.
just turn right to it? Oh, my God. Seriously, did you really just turn right to it? Okay,
it's-
212.
Well, that's the lined out part of it. But yeah, 213 is where it's lined out. It got moved to,
Okay, yeah,
Pete's almost there.
I can speak to that. The,
What
well,
page
he
are we on?
hasn't said anything yet, so.
go ahead. Yeah.
What page are we on?
That in the packet is page 213.
Yeah. But it's all lined out. So it got
Yeah,
moved
it's
to-
moved
Right.
to the high-density zoning chapter.
I guess my problem is
So hang on, let us get there. So
Okay.
we're all looking at the same
It is.
thing.
I take my glasses off and see.
This is what we're dealing with.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Okay, page 193.
193, thanks, Damon.
193 in your textbooks?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's been moved to 1712-030.
Okay, everybody there?
Okay, go for it.
Okay, that's my business. My boy just opened up his, internet business, I think, last year, or at this age, sometimes I say 1 year, it's 2 or 3 years ago. But anyway, it looks like they've lined out my business there, and I like to get that part unlined.
We're looking at the part that's been incorporated into the code. You're looking at the old part.
Okay.
Yeah. All they did is they moved it from 171835
Do we have a copy of
to
the document in the back?
171230. So it still exists,
no, we don't.
exactly those words.
Oh, okay.
The only question I have is, what business is it?
He
know what
does
it is.
internet. Internet.
Okay.
Yeah, we used to manufacture satellite antennas and boats and the internet, and
What's the, I would vote, I'm just curious, what's the address?
20122. Just past college, about a half mile away.
Okay. See, we've got a couple places where they refer to the tax lot, but it's like, what's the business? So we've been just curious, but it was
I know what it was.
completely just moved to another section. It is perfectly intact.
Then if that's good. One other question, I've got 5 lots that are in the R2 zone that I did originally before they changed the zone back, and I put the street in and we stubbed out for the sewer and the water line, and they changed the zone to bigger lot sizes and stuff like that. So I'm just, I guess, out of luck at it. I'm just on the new zoning, even though I've installed all the sewer lines and everything for 5 lots.
So Pete, can you respond to that?
I'd have to look at
Just
the lot
extemporaneously.
layout for that to see and get engineering to comment on it, because there may be some things that we haven't considered.
Okay,
Yeah,
I won't waste any more of your guys' time. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. We'll look at that and get back to you.
Okay.
Okay, there's 3 other people sitting there. What can we do for you tonight? If you want to come talk, you have to come up here because you have to be on mic. So I just don't want you to feel like you're just sitting there and that we didn't acknowledge you or find out what your concern might be or what we might. Anyway, we just want, if you have something, we would love to hear it. How about that?
Well, my name is Jeannie Sinclair, and I live at 13531 Claremont Way, Unit 7. It's a mobile home court, manufactured home court. There's about 200 homes in there, and they had sent us a notice where we pay our rent. They sent us a notice saying that they got a bid on the property. And then one of our neighbors came by and said, we should come to this meeting. So we just wanted to know if there's gonna be any changes or it's
So
gonna
let's-
stay a
let's
mobile
let
home
staff
park.
Answer first, and then we can jump in. Which one of you want to take it? Go ahead.
Hi. Hi, thanks for coming in tonight. The city has not been notified that anybody wants to change or develop the manufactured home park. We had been working with the association of people that live there. My understanding, they put an offer to purchase the property. So with the manufactured home parks, there's a provision where if you're going to sell it, you get to offer it to the residents first, and the residents have put an offer in. I don't know, I haven't talked to anyone for a week, so I'm not sure if they ever heard back on that offer or not. The city doesn't have any provisions for the sale of manufactured home park, but a few years back, we did adopt some standards that if someone wanted to develop it, they would have to get a permit through the city to do a manufactured home park closure permit. And with that closure permit comes a lot of process, including relocating residences and providing fees for the homes to either move or be replaced. And so that would be if someone wanted to develop it. At this point, I have no idea if there is any intention to develop it or not. We did connect the residences that we had been hearing from with Clackamas County Health and Housing, and they were connected to the legal services at Clackamas County, who I think has been really helpful. I do know they've been working with an entity to help them purchase the site. But again, I haven't heard anything for the last week. The city really doesn't play a role in any of this. We don't have any authority to tell someone they can or can't sell, but we do have a role if someone wanted to develop. And there would be a process and public hearing and things like that at that point. But I wish I had more certainty for you, but I don't.
And just to chime in, the code changes that we're making, they allow a little more flexibility for manufactured home parks to expand in the zone that they're in. And so in the zone that they're in is the R3.5 zone. And one of the changes that's being made is adding that as a permitted use, and previously it wasn't listed as one. So that is a positive thing for the manufactured home parks that are in existence right now. Along with that, there are some basic guidelines that are somewhat similar to the state rules on manufactured home parks as to how they're laid out and the process for expansion and that sort of thing. And that's adopted locally. And so those changes are part of what this proposed code amendment is for. Yeah.
So then, I just last, there was the comment about in our work session, we're going to work on a policy guidance or requests going forward. And one of those items is to recommend that manufactured home parks get their own zoning. So that once if somebody wants to not be a manufacturer, like they want to just tear it down and put condos in, just talking way off, but they would have to come in and come in for a rezoning on top of all the other development stuff, which puts another, step. I mean, they can do it if they want, but, it's, because, we're talking about affordable housing, and really manufactured homes are pretty much the definition of affordable housing.
Yes.
So we want to encourage that, so, so at this point, there isn't anything specific on, from the city to act on, and like I said, we're going to pass up to the city commission request to do a rezoning for all the parks, so.
I'd be happy to pass over the information for the contact for the county, and so you can follow up with him. He, I think, is continuing to work a little bit more closely.
Okay. I appreciate that.
From a practical point of view, these parks become so valuable in terms of the land value itself that it's difficult for the people that own them and run them to maintain them as a park, because the potential value is just way out of the realm of maintaining them as a park. And that's the problem, it's economics. And it's a real stretch, it has been in the past, the history show that, for governments to take those over and maintain them as a public housing project. Because like Damon said, they really are an answer to low-cost housing. And I think in the future, we'll see more and more of those take place, because government is going to recognize the need for those. But the problem right now is just one of sheer economics. How do you prevent the value from escalating to the point where even the property owner can't hold on to them? You know, what are you going to do when a person bids $1 million for your house, or for your lot? You're going to turn around, walk away from that? Of course not. You're going to. That's a resource. You know, so that's your problem. It's not that the city's not sensitive to it. It is, but how to go about getting involved? That's a real challenge.
Unless this got changed again.
If I had $1 million, I'd buy it for you.
Buy a lottery ticket.
There you go.
What extent is it?
I appreciate your comments, and thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, if you have any questions, you can ask staff too after, later,
Okay.
anytime.
Do you have any
Thanks.
extra slips at your table?
Yeah, I would have you fill out one of these comment cards, just so I've got a record, and a way to contact you.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you so much for coming. And I'm looking at you in the back row. Hi.
I'm just here to listen.
You're here to listen? Okay, we just want to make sure we don't leave anybody out.
Just here to listen on the zoning changes.
On the pardon?
Zoning changes.
Must be a realtor.
The zoning code changes?
Yes,
Anyone in particular?
R2.
Okay, come on up, talk to us about
I
it.
just want to listen.
We may not be specifically talking about that.
That's okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, you're welcome. Okay, I don't think we have anybody else here. We have received no additional letters or anything. So I think we're now to the next stage. We can, do I have permission to close the public hearing? Okay, we are closing the public hearing, and this is the portion of the meeting where we will have planning commission discussion and some deliberation, I presume.
Okay. Well,
It's not quite 7:30, so we're not,
I got 5 tabs to quickly go over.
Okay.
Pete's been prepped on them all, so
okay,
it should go
so
quick.
make sure we all have the same document.
Yep.
Which one are we looking
Okay.
at?
Well, page 75 of the big,
This one?
the big book.
The big book, okay, the big book of books. Page 75, because I wasn't sure you had the chart also, so I was getting a little nervous about that. Okay, 70. It's a good thing I did weightlifting today.
So this has to do with the CCNR's,
1608095.
yeah. We had proposed some language, I just wasn't sure if we'd gotten that language settled.
Yeah, so the language proposal that was discussed, which was whether to replace the words in the sentence, CCNRs or similar legal instruments submitted with residential plats submitted for final plat approval after January 1st, 2019 shall, quote unquote, explicitly permit accessory dwelling units and internal conversions to the extent permitted in the blah, 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 blah. So the question was, should that language be replaced with the words not prohibit?
So they shall not
Or
prohibit.
shall not prohibit. And there was some discussion about this. One question was, do we have the authority to regulate this? And under our police power, city attorney said, yes, we do. And the second was, is including this language much more clear, as opposed to not prohibiting it, could be a little more ambiguous. But welcome any further discussion on that topic.
Does anybody have any, we talked about this last time, does anybody have any objection to changing it to shall not prohibit?
I don't have any objections. That sounds,
It sounded clearer to me.
yeah.
Zach?
I liked the first one because of basically the legal opinion of our attorney and staff.
Down to you guys.
Shall not prohibit. Shall not prohibit.
Okay, so I think we've got
Okay,
shall not prohibit.
Okay.
Okay,
great.
check
Thank
that
you.
one off.
All right, the next one is page 251 and 252.
Thought we'd already made that change, that's why I bring it up.
Right, but it was just, Pete said that there was a.
Okay, 251, 252. All right.
So this is my issue about there being any sort of housing in the general commercial district. That is bed and breakfasts,
Boarding house.
multifamily, fourplexes, assisted living, home occupations, residential care, live, work, and along with that, the 17.4 density requirement. I mean, it's not mixed use, it's commercial. So I think they should be stricken as prohibited uses. I can see a residential care facility and assisted living facility, those are businesses. But multifamily, it's not, that's mixed use when you go with that, so.
So, and you're talking of housing, residential
In a
housing?
in a commercial area.
Yeah, in a commercial,
Right.
a strictly
Commercial area.
general commercial zone.
Right.
He's questioning, like, why are we, yeah, that's a good question.
Is there any of that happening today? Are there any residentials?
No, there's just assisted living facilities that I'm aware of.
Okay,
Yes,
but
there are.
that's a-
There's multifamily in the general commercial right now.
Where at?
There is multifamily across from Goodwill
Okay. That's
in that area. You know,
That side
on
of
the
the
right side,
streets?
if you're
Right.
going towards,
that side of the street's general commercial?
that whole side of the street's general commercial until you get closer down to,
So it's
more
on,
towards
you're talking on the
Point
south side of Gaffney then?
Yeah,
Of Malala.
I mean, excuse me, of Malala. At,
the apartment
Claremont.
buildings. It's the apartment buildings that are there.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some senior facility at like Beaver Creek and Malala, 'cause the same
Yeah,
area too.
yeah, and like I said, I don't really have a problem with care facilities because those are businesses. But, you know, a threeplex or, I don't know.
Aren't there some apartments across from Tony's Fish Market there on Washington, up on the second floor?
Yeah,
But
second
that's
and third
not-
floor.
Yeah, but that's not general commercial.
That's not general
It's
It's
either
mixed use.
MUC or MUD,
Oh,
which is
okay.
mixed,
All right.
which is mixed use, which is
Okay.
what we want in
Yeah,
that.
right.
It does seem contradictory that the general commercial district, which is not a mixed-use district, would have that in there.
Yeah.
So any existing in a general commercial, that's a non-conforming type of
Well, if
use.
you take,
Not
if we
yet.
take them out, they will become non-conforming. And I question whether or not that's a good idea. The other thing is that, when we're removing barriers to housing, the other thing is that I think that zoning historically was this hierarchy, and so you included
Everything.
uses in the lower zones, in the more intense zones. And I suspect that's why this is this way. Because as the use base broadens in the pyramid, you carry forward those lower density uses. I mean, I suspect that's why this is this way.
Well, I guess then my question is, what's the difference between general commercial and mixed use?
There's a variety of use differences, drive-throughs are permitted outright in general commercial, mixed use, have them as conditional. There's a lot of other FAR or density standards that are different in general commercial as in mixed use as well. Mixed use, as you all know, was created in 2004. Before that, we had no mixed use zones. General commercial certainly does have a different distinct character than a lot of our mixed use, and a lot of the building requirements reflect that as well. So we get the big box stuff can't go any other place but general commercial. But it is one of our more permissive zoning designations that allows a variety of stuff.
Okay, well, I raised my concerns. We can just do a quick poll or.
Well, we can add it to the, depending on where we want to go with it, we could add it to the memo of things that we think needs to be addressed, so.
Like I said, I'm ready for just a quick consensus. Does it go in our memo? Do we leave it the way it is? Do we pull it out?
Gentlemen, speak, please.
I would think that we should pull this out, not go with your suggestion.
Okay, so leave it
Because,
alone.
because it moves it into another conditional use that creates some other possible problems down the road. And this stuff is complex, and we're not gonna clear up everything, so I think some of it'll have to be a degree of grayness in there. How you get it to be pure white, you're double the size of the code or something like that, and you still have difficulties.
Okay, so you want to leave it, that's
I
fine.
appreciate the work on it, but it's just and I think you recognize that there is some multi-use in there that you maybe didn't have in your thought process before.
Yeah, I wasn't looking at that side of the
Okay.
street, so that's,
I'm confused,
any
Vernon,
thoughts?
first you said take it out. Are you saying take it out of his considerations or take it out of the first key words?
he meant leave it alone.
I'll leave it alone. Okay, I was confused.
Leave this one alone, do nothing with it.
Bob?
No comment. Leave it
Zach?
alone. I'm in agreement with whatever makes sense.
Okay.
If it
Zach?
makes sense, do
Leave
it.
it alone.
Okay. Tom?
What did Zach say? Leave it alone in there?
I think I'd like to maybe, idea is maybe
confused.
move it to discussion about to add to the memo.
I'm
If it's-
confused
If we
on
think
it.
it's an issue. I don't want to create non-conforming uses, but it is kind of it's one of those
I go with Bob.
gray areas.
Yeah.
Gray areas, okay.
So we're going to leave it alone and
For
then
now.
just say, maybe as a sentence, we have some concerns about uses bleeding between the zones.
We noticed this.
Yeah. Okay, I got no problem with that.
Okay,
I
next.
want to just bring these things up so we can say we discussed
Outline
them.
material.
293.
I thought you said 293.
No, 293.
There's no 293.
693, if we keep going.
693?
If we keep going.
No, hopefully not. Okay, so item M, which bleeds through on things that can be,
Oh, M. At the top of the page.
yeah, things that can be done in an NROD. And it's one of those where you kind of got to look through like three different things. M says that it's possible to build a fence in the NROD that requires them to put fence posts like in the stream or inside or along the top bank, which is not supposed to be done.
Yeah, I could clarify. Basically, we had an exemption for fences, provided they meet certain standards in the previous section. They couldn't be taller than 3.5 feet and made of split rail or similar open design. There would be a 2-foot width section on either side of the fence to be planted or seeded with native grasses, shrubs, herbs, or trees for ground cover. There'd be a minimum 6-inch clearance from the ground level. And then item 4 is that fence posts would have to be placed outside the top of bank of streams and the edge of a delineated wetland. So that particular standard, number 4, if you were not going to meet that and you had to place a fence post within the top of bank or within the wetland, that would be subject to a type 2 review and natural resource overlay district application, mitigation,
That's not what that
impact
says.
analysis and all of that. That was the distinction.
And my concern is if you got to build a fence in the wetlands, it requires, I mean, well, why put an exception and let you build a fence in the wetland? Why do you need to put a fence in the wetland?
Yeah, so the guidance for compliance with Title III, fences can be placed there. Metro Code doesn't consider fences structures that require, they don't consider it as development structure, and we adopted a code that talked about how you could have a pre-existing garden in the natural resources overlay district, and it wasn't really specific what was in that garden, it just got to be existing. This helped to refine that because we do have situations where fences are pre-existing or proposed. And in most cases, those are going to be reviewed through a type 2 review process. But it wasn't clear what kind of impact a fence post does have because it's very small and we already have exemptions for certain types of things like utility lines that don't have more than 100 square feet of impact are exempt. And various other types of disturbance where you just come back and you reseed it to pre-existing conditions. Our feeling was that this is in line with those kind of development impacts and should be exempt. It just provides more explicit standards for that. And that was discussed with the Natural Resources Committee on a couple of occasions leading up to this particular code section, and they were okay with this language.
The language in M? Because I know they were okay with,
Not the language in M, though.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
And-
They haven't seen that.
and that just brings back to fences are an option.
Yeah.
It's not like it's the foundation of a building or anything like that, or
Yeah.
a retaining wall. It's a choice to put a fence where you put your fence. And I'm not sure we should permit the choice to be the fence to impact a wetland.
Right.
With all due respect, I'm not sure we should be considering this at all. What's this got to do with equitable housing?
Well,
Well,
I mean, what's it
It's
got?
those-
part of the red line
It's
code
those
that they
other
put in
code
front.
changes that they were recommending. It
Well, then,
doesn't.
okay, but let's not dwell on it. Let's just refer to the commission as something that's got nothing to do with equitable housing. Let them concentrate on equitable housing and then deal with cleaning up the code. I don't want to spend time on where to put a fence.
I understand. I'm just saying, it's a red line thing they put in front of us,
Well, okay,
which
but
means it's
what I'm
something we
saying,
should
let's not spend
comment
a lot
on.
of time on it. you know?
And I'm not saying we should spend a lot of time on it either. I just don't think we should put fences in the wetland. We can do a quick poll, and if I'm overruled, we'll move on.
I have a question about so let's say there's a fence that's within an NROD, and the fence falls down or gets destroyed for whatever reason. Would we be allowing somebody to put it back, or would we have them do under the new code requirements? Because I don't have an issue with the 3 foot, but, to put
Right.
a 6-foot fence back up or whatever, I don't know, that kind of goes against what we're trying to do in here, which is to allow for wildlife
Code
passage
does
and.
provide for maintenance of existing structures, assuming that they were pre-existing lawfully.
Yeah, assuming.
So, we'd probably want some evidence or proof of that before we would allow it to be repaired. But oftentimes, we're not going to know about that type of
Well, maybe in the
situation.
NROD, we should say if your fence falls down, you have to meet the new requirements.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I mean, you shouldn't be able to put it back because it may be causing
Meet the new
damage
standard.
or whatever, yeah.
It may have been knocked down because the deer keep jumping on it.
That could be.
Whatever the case is.
I saw 3 of them down on Laurel Lane yesterday, 3 little
So-
deer.
So one little question on what's the reason or the purpose of if it's an existing fence, there was some reason that justified it years ago.
Probably not, because we didn't
Well,
have
probably
we didn't
not,
have an NROD years ago.
Yeah, but
Is this also proposing that if somebody wanted to put a new fence in for some reason, there must be 10 different reasons why a fence could go in or what the circumstances are.
Yeah, I mean, provided it meets these standards, it would be exempt, like, we would not require a permit for a fence anyway, even if it was in the, outside of the NROD. So,
Outside the NROD, but we're talking about inside.
yeah, I know.
I mean, it just, to me, M calls into question the validity of 4. If you can get an exemption for it, then why is there a restriction?
Yeah. Well, if the commission feels strongly about this, we can take that out.
Well,
But Laura wants to.
If you want to provide some direction on what you wanted to say, we can clarify it. M is saying if you don't meet those exact provisions, then it needs to go through a public comment period process. So it's not saying you can't do it, it's saying you need to go through more process if you don't meet the standards that NRC identified, which is, you have to have space for critters to go underneath and things like that. If you don't want to permit fences at all, we can, if you give us the direction, we can make the code say what you want it to say. I'm a little unclear on what direction that is.
I just don't think M is valid.
M is just saying if you don't meet the outright permitted or exempted strict requirements, then you have to go through a public process. It's not prohibiting it, it's making it go through
a process.
Type 2, yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
But you can also prohibit it if it doesn't meet those
I'm
strict
okay with
standards
as long,
too.
like I said, I think that if your fence falls down and you want to put a new fence, you need to meet the requirements. You don't get to go, you don't get to do over, especially if it's an NROD. I don't care about any place else well, I do actually on corners.
I'd have to think about that and the
Okay, think about
provisions
it.
a little bit more
Okay, think
about
about it.
the
We'll-
do-over. I
we'll
mean,
come-
I think
we'll come back.
intentional destruction.
We'll come back. Okay.
I think it's a complicated one.
Number 4.
Actually, excuse me, number 5, page
Oh, number 5.
356.
356.
Yep. This is the last one. This
And
one's
if you
a
get 357, you get bingo.
okay. I just want to make sure I got the right numbers on my lottery card.
Oh, yes, that's right. It's a big jackpot.
So, this is about item B at the bottom of the page. On 356, it says, when no other practical alternative exists, a fence, hedge, wall, or retaining wall, or combination thereof can be located within the right-of-way. I'm of the opinion that fences, hedges, and walls are completely and totally optional, and why should you be putting them in the right-of-way? I have no problem with the retaining wall. I mean, if you need to do that in order to keep the land from slipping and all the other, impacts, and a combination, you build a 3-foot retaining wall, you put a fence on top so your kids don't run off and fall into the street. But just a fence or just a hedge or just a wall, that's, to me, is just an outright taking of public land. So it's a perfectly optional thing. You just move your fence to the edge of the right-of-way. You move your wall to the edge of the right-of-way. So I don't think there could ever be a practicable alternative where you would ever build a fence, wall, or retaining wall appropriately in the right-of-way.
Yeah. So
Is there a
the Public Works Department is currently going through a process of a policy with respect to encroachments in the public right-of-way, of which there are many, many throughout the city, and a process of notification to any owners who have them, and, coming up with criteria for what procedures those are required to follow and under which circumstances they would need to be removed. We sent the question here to the city engineer, and after some discussion, they didn't recommend making any changes to the language in the code. These types of encroachments are subject to all 3 of the criteria here. A revocable permanent obstruction permit, and they would have to comply with all other fence standards, and then they also have to comply with the traffic site obstruction requirements in the code as well.
Yeah, but
Well, apparently
So
in
what?
Kenema, you don't have to do anything. You can just put your fence up
A
wherever
little
you
background.
I got a question for Carrie. Carrie, what kind of liability does the city carry if we knowingly allowed something to be in the right-of-way and later on it caused an accident or something like that? We must carry some liability.
Well, knowingly is a difficult thing to determine. I mean, I don't know, in what circumstance would we knowingly?
We granted them a permit. That's knowingly.
Well, not if we go through this process set forth in the code. I mean, if we go through the process set forth in the code, we've made some discretionary determination that it's impracticable to put it somewhere else. Just like we do with many things. Yeah. I mean, I can't say with any certainty whether or not the city has liability for that kind of decision or not. So I can't probably answer that question, I'm sorry.
So a little bit of background is our current code, this section doesn't talk about the right-of-way at all. And so the goal was to add transparency by putting forward at least what the process is or some general provisions for the city to consider when they do look at fences, hedges, and walls and retaining walls in the right-of-way. And so just to add a little bit more, the permanent obstruction permit goes before the city commission at an open meeting, so there's a public input part of that. And then also, this allows the discretion to the city engineer to process it. They could choose to not process it, or, I mean, there's a process for process if you want one here. The other thing is that there are electric fences, hedges, retaining walls, and things like that in the right-of-way. Not all of them are associated with private property. You can think of things like the jug handle had giant retaining walls in the public right-of-way. There are a lot of streets and public works operations where they'll do retaining walls in the right-of-way for sidewalks and.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with retaining walls being there. I mean, they're a public safety thing. But a wall, a fence, or a hedge is just, I don't want people walking there, so I'm gonna put a fence 3 feet out from my house.
An example of a more recent one would be near the Cove. There was some fences or some retaining walls around the roundabout-ish area, and there's some black fencing above that, and that was because it was required as fall protection above that.
Yeah.
So I'm just.
And I don't have a problem with combinations, as I said. Retaining wall with a fence or a hedge above it to keep people from falling off is fine. But just a fence, just a hedge, or just a wall, it's cosmetic. It has no, I mean, I can see no reason why we should allow that to occur. So there shouldn't even need to be a process. The answer is no. It's the right of way. Don't put a fence there. Move your fence. So why do we need a process?
Well, this leaves it up to the discretion of the city engineer and thus the city commission when they go through one of those pieces, the revocable permits too. We might have some hedges between like busy roads and the backsides or 205. I'm just trying to provide other examples of
We have
when.
one in Kenema that's been brought to our attention, so that's.
Well, and that's
what I'm
irrelevant
talking
to,
about.
that's
I know.
irrelevant to my discussion. I just,
Yeah, no,
you know,
so there you go.
yeah, well,
That's our background and how we got here.
okay.
We've closed the public hearing, unfortunately, but
So
Well,
that's where I'm at.
I guess I tend to agree with you, not that I want to prolong this, but yeah, I don't think we should be putting fences in the public right of way for whatever reason, any reason.
I also agree. At least it's a good goal to have to work towards, and you've delineated the difference between fences and combinations of things that on this basis, it just sounds logical to go for it.
Okay.
I feel like I need more information. Like I don't agree with the gut check, but it sounds like we would need input from Public Works and other places. That's what I would recommend before policy change.
No, I don't think it's a policy change, I think it's a code change.
Code change, but correction.
Well, we could recommend that you take out the word fence and just say a retaining wall.
Well, fence, hedge, wall.
Yeah. That would solve that problem.
Yeah. except yeah.
You may have fences on top of retaining walls that are required for fall protection.
Yeah, and that's, again,
Think of one on Division, at the corner of Division and, what's the street that the Oregon City Garbage is on, which my brain is dying right now, I can't think of it.
Morton?
Morton, yes, there's a retaining wall with a fence on top of it that's a little bit of a site obstruction.
yeah. And then there's also the fence on top of the retaining wall for the top of 15th Street.
So
But it's not a site obstruction.
our recommendation is if you want to say fences alone should be discouraged, then you could add a statement that says fences alone should be discouraged, but to let things broad, because sometimes you have situations where they're needed.
Why don't you do that?
Is that what?
Sure, go for
You
it.
want a
Yeah.
statement that says fences alone should be discouraged, or some other more
There you go.
eloquent
That
language?
sounds good.
Fences, hedges, walls by themselves should be discouraged. However, a combination of retaining wall and blah, blah, blah. Is that,
Gets us off the dime.
Okay?
all right, that's the end of my list. Everything else, we went through in all the months before.
Okay. So where are we on the findings?
Yeah, because your September 3rd findings letter in here doesn't incorporate the last 4 meetings worth of changes.
Yeah, there's some major inconsistencies in the findings between what we have now come out with and what this says. And I was looking at it again and I'm going, no, that's not what we said. There's the thing about the height, in the, where we changed the height, kept it at 45, but then we modified another part of it. That's not in this findings.
Yeah, the adjacent to rather than the 100-foot, your findings still reference the 100-foot distance, not the adjacent to.
You have two options. One is that we can revise them and come back. I think the hard part about the staff report is that it's sort of a moving target.
It
as
is a
we
moving
evolve.
target. I get it.
So we can come back with final staff report, knowing that you have, well, you may have already had a tenant. Anyway, so we can come back with the staff report, or we can final out the staff report, and then when we go to the city commission, we can sync it up with the draft as you finalized it today.
There's a lot in there. I don't know that not that I.
I'm ready to approve these if they would reflect what we changed. I found stuff on page 14, stuff on page 21 that, again, it's not consistent, page 18, things that we changed. These amendments would allow such and such to be permitted use in the MUC and the MUD districts. Well, we didn't say that. Page 19. Page 21, it's a bunch of stuff on there, 22.
I've got an option C for you.
Okay,
We can final out a staff report. So should you want to make a decision tonight, we can final out the staff report very soon, and then we can send it to a select version of, a couple of you if you want to, just to give, you can delegate your authority to one or two of you to finalize our staff report before it goes to city commission, if you want to take a look at it.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we ought to designate Damon and Louise here.
that's my new name. He's the only one that can call me that, though, so please don't call me that.
On the record.
So we can, if you choose to do that, we'd be more than happy to send it
Yeah,
your way.
I'm fine with that.
I said Denise, didn't I?
Yes, Louise. Oh, the other
That's
Denise.
the other Denise. I wish I could tell you that my middle name was Louise, but it's close.
You good with?
Yeah,
option C?
that's fine.
Okay.
I'm okay with it to a point. I appreciate the fact that you want to get this over with and done with. I would say after we've looked at it, I would want it to go out to these guys before it goes to the city commission. I'm just,
When were you planning to submit it to the city commission?
that's the other question I had.
We would like to have it before the city commission on November 7th. That means that the packet goes out a week ahead of time, which is October 31st, which is a week from Wednesday. So we can have the draft staff report.
Well, how about this? What if Chairman Griff and Commissioner maybe have concerns, we can bring it back before the full commission at the end of November. But if you guys are okay with it, then we'll just move it forward on the 7th.
I would feel a lot more comfortable only because I can tell you what my schedule, I don't want to go into details about what my schedule and life is, but after the 2nd, my life will be considerably easier. I will not be prepared. I do not feel I could personally be adequately prepared to have something ready to go to the city commission for that meeting on the 7th by the 31st, because my life is going to be over on November the 2nd. I'm just being honest with you. I would feel more comfortable if you pushed it to the meeting on the 21st, because then I would feel like I would be doing the planning commission a service by having an adequate amount of time between now and the 2nd of November. I'm going to be a crazy person.
I don't know if the city commission is having a meeting on the 21st, but it likely pushes it to December 5th.
It's the week of
The
Thanksgiving.
December 21st is the day before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's why it's sort of.
That's why
well,
the
whatever.
commission wouldn't,
Yeah.
or the.
Right.
Well, they meet the 1st and 3rd,
Or
right?
you could delegate it to Commissioner Maybe and he could do it.
I'm okay with that, but I know what his schedule's like. I just want to give it I'm just being honest with you.
Yeah.
Once November the 2nd comes, the heavens will open, the earth will revolve again, and the sun will come out. It's not that it isn't now.
The end of the world.
If you're, yeah, I mean, there's lots of ways to do it. We could always have Commissioner maybe look at it, post that with the agenda on the 31st, and we could repost the agenda.
After the
Before-
2nd.
yeah.
That would work too.
I don't know that I'm gonna have the time.
We're willing to
by
do it.
myself,
We're
yeah.
just telling you we have some constraints and we want to be responsible. So
Yeah,
I also am planning on scheduling some time with you after the 2nd.
yes, I'll talk about that.
Yes, we can talk about that later. So I'm okay with being delegated responsibility. I'm just being honest and realistic. I want to be able to concentrate on this and not the other thing that I'm having to do.
So you'll be able to concentrate after the 2nd?
Yes, the 2nd,
Damon, how's that fit into your
Yes,
schedule?
that's, especially if it looks like it's gonna move to the city commission on what, December 5th, was?
and they need to have some more work sessions about this anyway, because I've already have been talking to a couple of them and they're freaked out.
But
Told them they should be. This is a lot of stuff.
Was it something we said, or?
No, it's nothing we said. They saw this. Let's put the fear. So I mean,
We don't have any more work sessions scheduled before the city commission.
I am, well, they should have more, but that's just my opinion. I'm willing to move this tentative approval, like we said, that we would take a look at it, make sure that it lines up with everything that we said that we were going to do, because right now, I can't approve this the way this is. There's too many, all the stuff we said has not been incorporated into this, and that's what we need to send to the city commission, not,
Well, let's get it right.
yeah, so we want it right. So I'm ready to move that forward.
Okay.
That means a little more work for you guys,
You
but
need a motion, or?
yes, we need a motion.
I so move.
Hold on,
Well,
I'm a little unclear on what your
right,
motion is.
I am too.
Okay.
So basically, I think what you're saying is, we're done with this. We just need to.
Except for the one change that you had identified
Right.
in 1754.
Right, but that's part of the findings that Denise and I will review.
Right.
And so the question is when does it go in front of the city then, if we're not gonna be able to get to it in time for the notice?
You can, I mean, we could take a draft we could post the draft with it, and then you can review the draft before the 7th, after the 2nd.
I'm just not comfortable
There
with you,
still have
with
a-
you posting a draft that's not the draft that we approved. That
Yeah.
Okay.
That confuses the public. Well, which draft are we talking about? What was the draft that was posted? Is this the, and we've got, that we have people in the community who shall not be named that will call us on that. I can already hear them calling.
All right.
I never get those calls.
I know,
never
because
get
your
those
number's unlisted.
Well, it sounds to me like you need a motion to approve LEG 18-0001, Development Code Amendments, including equitable housing,
Yes, we have a motion and a second,
Including
the amendment,
in 1754 100B.
including the amendment in 1754,
100B.
100B.
subject to a staff report that will be reviewed and approved consistent with your
Fine.
red line decision here.
Well,
Yes.
approved subject to the findings and the red line document being synced.
All right, and then we can work on the timing as to if city commission is meeting on the 21st,
Probably
or
not.
if it will go till December 5th.
Yeah, we
So-
can,
I can work with you guys separately.
that's not part of our motion. Our motion is, let's just move it.
Yeah.
Somebody call for the
Who
question?
made the motion and second, sorry?
I seconded, Paul over here, no,
Paul.
Bob.
Brad.
Thank you.
Brad.
Is Brad, oh, I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
He'd be
good.
good as a Brad.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll call the vote. Commissioner Guile?
God, how come you always start with me? Aye.
Commissioner Maybe?
Aye.
Commissioner Henkin?
Aye.
Commissioner Mahoney?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnston?
Aye.
Chair McGriff?
Aye.
I want to
Great.
move chairs, so he doesn't look at me first.
You're just irresistible, that's what it is.
You're number one.
Scary is more
You're
like it.
number one. Okay, so
We'll get with you before the end of the meeting and work something out.
So it'll be on this city commission work session, either November 21st, well,
I was
sometime in
trying to-
November or December.
yeah, okay, that works.
Trying to look up a
So is
calendar.
there any, I guess I'm halfway volunteering. I would be more than willing to go to the city commission work session because there may be questions about what our thinking was. I know at least 2 commissioners who've asked me those types of questions,
I think that's a good
and they've
idea.
watched the tape, so
Do they allow you to participate at a work session though?
only by the grace of God go.
Thursday.
It's not a work
Why?
session, though? It'd be a
Yeah,
hearing?
that's a regular,
Because here's the
You said work
calendar.
session.
but she said there'd be no more work
Oh, no
sessions.
more work sessions. Okay, I didn't hear the no more part. I heard work session.
Yes.
And my ears posted.
Yeah, so
Oh, yeah, I will
certainly
go to
someone
public
from the
hearing.
planning commission is welcome to come
Any of
with.
you, I would love to have company,
yeah.
but I might have to pay you to come there. Okay, so we are going to go into the work session.
Can I just clarify that? So everyone give the head nod to have Chair McGriff come to the city commission to represent the planning commission
if
for
we
this.
have-
Anybody else, please come because you were all sitting here right next to me.
Yep.
I don't want to take the hit by myself.
As long as no more than 3 of you go, then that is.
You
great.
noticed.
Well, then you can notice it.
As long as no more than 3, you can't have 4 or 5.
Just-
And it theoretically could
I will
become
let
a
you know
meeting.
if I can come.
Right.
All
I
right.
would appreciate anybody and everybody that wants, we all want to come, then we'll just let Laura know, and then we'll make a notice that the planning commission will be in attendance at the public hearing.
I'll send you guys a notice too when it goes out, okay?
A couple
right.
points. Laura, did you want to do communications now or later?
We can do it now if you like.
We have a 5-minute tape change thing
Okay,
for the work
5-minute tape change.
Do you want to do communications in the hearing or work session?
We're going for the 5-minute tape change.
Okay, perfect.
We'll be back in a few minutes.
Dating yourself, Pete.
Sorry. 8-track.